Hi guys, Dave here. This is the lesson on level 1 intervals. So, what are intervals? Well, if you haven't completed the tutorial on scales already, please go back and do that first because it's going to help you a lot in understanding what intervals are. I'm going to use the C major scale that I use in the scales tutorial to explain it a bit better. So, intervals are a unit of measurement within music. So what we're doing is we're basically measuring the distance between the first note of the scale and any other note of the scale. So the distance between the first note of the scale and the second note of the scale is called a second. The distance between the first note of the scale and the third note of the scale is called a third, and so on and so on. The intervals we're looking at level 1 are the fourth and the fifth. So if I take my C major scale, I go C, that's 1. Lift up my middle finger, D is 2, E is 3, and F is going to be 4. So what does that mean? Well, as musicians, it's really important that we know how to play intervals outside of just a scale, but also we need to be able to recognize the sound of those intervals. So if we take those two notes, C and F, that's called a fourth. The sound of a fourth is the sound of the piece of music Here Comes the Bride, or the Wedding March. So if you know that song, Here Comes the Bride, there it is, that's a fourth. So when we hear those two notes, what we want to do is we want to teach our subconscious to overlay that song, Here Comes the Bride, over the top. Okay, so that's just an example of what a fourth sounds like. We're also going to look at a fifth. A fifth, so using the same system, we would go C1, D2, E3, F4, G5. But although we could go C to G like that, we want to learn how to move intervals around. And one of the best things about the guitar is that if a shape works somewhere, it pretty much works everywhere, all over the guitar. So if this is a fourth, then this will be a fourth, this will be a fourth, this will be a fourth, and the same is true of a fifth. So we want to learn a shape we can move around. So whereas a fourth was here, a fifth is like this. Okay, so what we've done there is we've kept the root note the same. I'm still using the C at the third fret of the A string, but instead of playing F on the third fret of the D string, I'm now playing G on the fifth fret of the D string. I'm using two different fingers, the first and ring finger. You'll notice that we get a different tune now. The song that overlays over a fifth is the Star Wars theme. So the next stage of our learning, once we've learned how to play them and once we've learned what the tunes are, is that we need to test ourselves to recognize them just by listening. So now we've learned what the intervals are. We've got a fourth and a fifth. We know how to play them. Later on, once you get a bit more confident with them, we can learn how to move them all over the neck. But for now, just keep them, on the A string, for example. If you move your root anywhere on the A string and keep the same pattern of playing the same fret but on the D string, you're going to get a fourth. If you do the same thing with a fifth, it will always be a fifth. You can do the same thing on an E string and the D string. I would just steer clear of the G and B strings because things get a little more interesting there, but we'll look at that later on. So hopefully that's clarified everything about level 1 intervals, the fourth and fifth. Once you've practiced them a few times and got used to hearing the tune, you can click over to our next video, which is going to be a blindfold test, so you can practice recognizing them just by sound. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.